Welcome to Moss Marketing Mondays, aka the M3 Podcast. Brought to you by Moss Marketing Group, bringing you everything marketing every Monday. Stay tuned for marketing tips and tricks you can use today. The M3 Podcast, marketing knowledge to help you succeed. Let's get started.
That wasn't even a bush light. Welcome back to the M3 Podcast. So we are coming up right on 1 year of starting this, and we wanted to have a podcast that is just four of us. Our couch isn't big enough to hold the MMG squad that we had a year ago even, and definitely not the squad that we have now. So, but we just kind of want to go over the progression, what the podcast has turned into, where we're at Moss Marketing Group wise. We now have Square One Coaching also. Just so many things have changed in 12 months. Mm-hmm. And we have paper for the first time ever on here. So this is new. But we have a lot of people that have messaged Logan, Dalton, Lauren, Ricky, different people in here about just different questions that they have about the podcast, about Moss Marketing Group, and kind of everything as a whole. So just kind of have an open discussion on these different topics and see where it goes.
The M3 Roundtable?
The M3 Roundtable in front of a square table. But anyone watching that's new, this is Lauren, Dalton, Logan, myself, Dane, and we are all part of Moss Marketing Group. So let's get after it.
It's crazy. This is 51, right?
I know, yeah. 51. Yeah. That's
awesome.
It was pretty crazy when we started, and I feel like that was yesterday. And
it doesn't seem like a year ago. Definitely doesn't.
And that's when we were trailing up on this. This is kind of the year end podcast of where we started, and it really has turned into something I had no earthly idea it was going to.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it's been awesome to watch as a part of it, and just from our guest perspective too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump in here, and Dan, I'm going to ask you the first question that we got. So why did we start a podcast?
So I've gotten that question. I feel like I've answered that question a lot of times. That a lot of people thought it was a pretty stupid idea out the gate, and like you're going to spend a lot of money to start that. And my vision of a podcast was not something that was half-assed and done poor quality. I felt that it should be marketed a certain way and really be utilized to what it was supposed to be. And I think out the gate it was pretty rough. And that was more of just
growing pains.
Yeah.
Inexperience in that thing.
I would just say the experience side of it, that I thought that we were going to have way more like quality reels pulling out. I was like, we're going to nail this. And then like we watch an hour. I'm like, damn, that wasn't that great. But in the beginning, when we started it, it was the podcast space is weird because you're capturing such a large portion of people's time. And I felt like there wasn't something in Kansas City that really leveraged into business owners, into marketing, and gave people that knowledge. And it also leans into, because there is a business aspect to it also, where a backdoor sells for us. And longevity of it, I saw the vision of the future where we have a lot of business owners that are now listening to this, and we acquire new accounts because somebody can come on here and listen and hear us talk, go over what we're doing, and it brings that personal touch to everything. Yeah. So I think that was a lot of the reason for the podcast. Was I wanted something in Kansas City that gave business owners an outlet to go speak on their business, their journey of what they've done, how they've marketed, and then also bring those tools to other business owners.
Yeah.
And it helps us out. It helps others out. So it made sense to me all the way around. It just took us a little while to figure it out.
Yeah, at a certain point, you have to figure out how to leverage your time best. And whether it's YouTube, a podcast, social media, whatever it is, when you put something out there and it's always out there, that and it continues to accumulate watch time, that is always selling for you or building your brand or doing whatever you want to drive forward. So if you put if we put a podcast out that has, 1,000 hours of watch time, that's 1,000 hours worth of content, brand building, selling for us that we wouldn't have if we had to actually do that in person. So that's the great part about it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it helps a lot with our content side. A lot of people struggle with content, of having a mass amount of it. And most people don't understand on the flip side that we have, 200 plus reels sitting in a Google Drive that haven't been posted. That's 100% fault to me because I've dropped the ball on it. But it is something that is just, it makes sense for us and it makes sense for people that come on.
Yeah.
So I'm going to shoot this one over to Lauren because she's been mistalkative over there. When we're picking guests and things like that, what does that look like? Because it is always a group decision. And what does that look like?
I feel like at the beginning, we were choosing people that we had as clients, like accounts that we had, the business owners. A lot of times those business owners never get a chance to tell their story. Like I know when we had Tony from Shemaikas, like people who know of Shemaikas know of the Shemaikas story, but the people, if you didn't know that already, they would never get that chance to tell her story. So at the beginning, it was a lot of just clients that we had. And then as we grew and the podcast kept going, it's kind of become like word of mouth. Like people will be like, hey, I didn't know you started a podcast. I saw it on Instagram. I want to be a guest on there. Like I know we've had a ton of people reach out saying that they want to be guests on the podcast. And we still pick from our accounts that we have, but we've had people that aren't accounts. Like when Jeff Wasserman and Kyle came on, like their story is one of the coolest stories I've ever heard. And to know that like their direct mentor is Andy Frisella and Sal Frisella, to get to hear their story. Again, they don't tell their personal story very often. And when they do, I wish they did because it's so good. And so many people could learn a shit ton from it. So yeah, it's just kind of been word of mouth now. Like people know about the M3 podcast, which is really cool. And when you were talking about why we started it, I remember one of the first episodes we had, we talked about like the percentage of podcasts that fail after, what was it, like the first 10 episodes or whatever.
Yeah.
To know that we've made it a whole year and to look back and see how much we've progressed since then, like going from the super nervous to talking on the microphone to having to prepare an hour before the podcast, having a script written out on the marker board. Like it was, we all were kind of...
Now I don't even wear shoes.
Yeah, now we just literally go straight from our desks and we're like, oh, let's get on the couch and start the podcast. Like it just is comfortable to us now. Like everyone is perfectly okay with talking on the microphone. And I remember, who was it? Dalton didn't like hearing his voice in the headphones.
I still don't.
Hasn't changed.
So it's just like all those things that have progressed, like it's inevitable. Consistency will make you better. Like doing a podcast once a week for 52 weeks, like no shit, we're all like way better at it.
Yeah.
And how did we feel at first, though? I mean, after the first 15 or 20,
yeah,
I know we had the conversation. We're like, I mean, this is cool and all. This is taking up a lot of time editing. And I mean, for the first, 20 episodes, we didn't maybe see, we didn't quite pick up the traction until, maybe around 30, 35-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
so I think
a lot of people discount the amount of time that goes into having a high level podcast.
Yeah.
And that's one of the questions we have on here is, Dalton, I'll let you hit on this, is what role does social media play in the traction of a podcast and things like that?
In my opinion, it's the biggest thing. I mean, it's broadcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Play, but I feel like those platforms aren't necessarily places that people find your podcast. It's just a place where someone goes to listen to it, to the full one. Mm-hmm. I know me scrolling through Instagram and Facebook, like I always stop and listen to or watch the reels on podcasts because it's intriguing to me, especially if it's something that I like or if I'm, it's a podcast I see all the time. Obviously, if I watch reels it's going to keep feeding me the same, podcast reels. So, no, I think social media is huge. I think that's the biggest way to just get your podcast known to the masses. And then once your podcast is known, you get subscribers on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music. That's when it really starts picking up traction there. But and correct me if I'm wrong. I just think the social is the way to build it the best.
I think you're spot on. And tell the listeners about the CP podcast.
I was thinking about when to bring that up. So, what was that? A month or so ago was their first one. Guys came on, Blue Collar Workers. We're CP Excavating. Go watch there's 2 podcasts. Go watch them both. But we were just cutting up reels for the podcast, and I think I would post like one every other post I did for them. So in like a 2-week span, I posted all these reels. I'm like, cool, they're getting some traction. And I think Dane was in Florida.
I was in Florida.
Mexico.
I was in Florida. I got a call when I was on the golf course.
Yeah. Dane, I didn't even realize it, but Dane texted me. He's like, bro, did you see what CP's reel is doing? I'm like, no.
So I'm golfing, and my phone's in the front of the golf cart. And it's like, brr, brr, brr. And it's like going crazy. I'm like, who is calling me right now? And so I like look at it, and it's just Facebook notifications galore. And I'm like, and then right as I look at that, Corey pops up. He's calling. I'm like, oh damn. I'm like, what did we do?
Happened?
And at this point, it's at like 700,000 maybe, or was it even at that?
It was like
300,000.
Yeah,
a couple
or
hundred
something
when we
like
first
that.
found it.
Yeah. So I take a call. He's like, bro, have you seen this? And he's like, what do you say to like all these assholes that are posting stuff on here? I'm like, dude, it's just one of those things. I'm like, they're feeding the algorithm. Just let them feed it.
He's got a heavy dose of people commenting on his stuff since then, because we've been posting a lot more stuff for him. But I think that reel ended up at 4.5 million views.
And what did that do for the actual podcast?
Oh, that's the highest viewed podcast that we have.
But the crazy thing is, a lot of people, when they see it from the outside, they're going to see what YouTube has. But that one podcast had 10,000 hours of listen time.
Yeah.
Like the first one. And it was crazy when we put the second one up, the just initial spike on it.
Yeah.
That people were like ready to listen to it again.
And not only that, but all of his other reels too got thousands more views just because people were interested. They clicked on the page. They were watching his other stuff. So it's a compounding effect. Really.
Yeah.
It's what it is.
And I think a lot of people want to have a podcast. They may have an idea, but then execution of it is the biggest key to how it all works. Mm-hmm. And like you said, your podcast is housed on YouTube, but it's still a long video that's being put up.
Yeah.
Your podcast is housed on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and whatever other platforms it's on, but it's how do you lead people into that? Mm-hmm. And that social ends up being that kind of platform to say, hey,
I think so too. Yeah.
Get a taste of it, get a little taste of it, because same thing. That's why they have trailers for movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People watch a trailer on a movie. That's why they have commercials for movies. Is, hey, here, watch a minute and a half of it. If you like it, come watch the whole thing.
Yeah. I'm guilty all the time of scrolling through Instagram or TikTok and like finding a little snippet of someone's podcast that grabs my attention. And whether you call it clickbait or whatever you want to call it, it does the job, because I will be that person that goes to YouTube and searches like the full podcast, and I want to watch the whole thing. But yeah, like Dalton said, with that CP reel, blue collar work, there's a percentage of people that relate to that. And it's kind of like you don't see a whole lot of reels on blue collar work on social media, whether it's more like business oriented or like business owners, never really blue collar work. And so I feel like all those people that were scrolling through and they're like, holy shit, this is actually something I can relate to.
It's such a good opportunity too, because look at how many blue collar workers there are that are on social media and relate with that.
Yeah. And Corey hit at it too. He's something along the lines of, people don't get to see what we do every day, day in and day out. They don't see that, but that now they're starting to, because we're pushing all this new content of our daily lives. And I think that is truly why it's just catching traction more and more. And people just like it. It's genuine. I don't know. People love genuine.
Yeah.
There's so much
I think that's why people watch podcasts too.
Yeah.
This is an organic conversation like we would have sitting in our office.
Yeah.
And it's, I tell business owners every single day that we start with on new accounts, things, stop trying to sell people all the time.
Yeah.
People are tired of being sold 24/7. Just let them organically come to you. And that's another piece of the podcast is people can organically find out who we are now.
Yeah.
And it's not, we're not on here trying to sell somebody anything. It's just talking about accounts we have, talking about what we're doing, talking to a business owner, whatever it is.
I almost brought that point up earlier. I just
Yeah.
didn't want to interrupt anyone, but literally people can watch and just see us, see our personality, see who we are. And I think that's why not only is the content good, but them just being able to see us for who we are, you know, makes them want to reach out and use us for their marketing. Because they're like, well, that's someone that, you know, I can relate with, I could hang out with, I could drink a beer with.
Oh, that's
So
an
on and
everyday
so
person
forth.
just like
Yeah,
me.
it's,
you know?
Yeah.
they're not like this mystified, you know, marketing guru person who,
Yeah.
like, you know, I would never want to talk about.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know, it just makes us, again, genuine.
Yeah.
So,
All right, I'm going to keep circling around. Logan, what do you think from watching the podcast where we're at? What do you think our biggest obstacle is that we've faced to this point?
I'd say probably from like a process standpoint, and I have no involvement in this, just from my observation, would be the editing side, the time commitment, the time that it takes Ricky and the content team to piece everything together, the quick turnarounds that we sometimes, you know, force them, whether it's them having to do it in the evenings. I know Ricky's done it on the weekends before too. That speaks to their commitment. I give them very high kudos. We've never been late on one. We've never missed one. So kudos to them on that. I think like actually on the podcast, some of the biggest challenges that we've had have been getting people to open up a little bit more. Sometimes we know that our guest has a really good story that we want to hear. But whether it be the camera, the microphone, whatever it is, they just have a hard time opening up and telling that full story when they're on the podcast.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like some of the podcasts that we've, you know, expected the most out of or felt like was going to be some of the best storytelling, we've just haven't been able to quite get that out of the guest, which, you know, that's okay. Everyone's different. Everyone's comfortable sharing what they are too. So there haven't really been any bad podcasts, just some that, you know, could have had a little bit more detail to them and parts of the story.
Yeah.
So
I do think too, you know, our first 15 or so, maybe even more than that, we had like a legit script that we would not a script, but like
there used to be a TV that sat in front of us. We had a mount TV on wheels, and that was terrible.
we would
Oh, yeah.
email them questions though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who was going to be on
Beforehand.
it? So I think what they did was like read all that. Okay, that's all I'm going to have to talk about. Like, and now I'm just going to stick to that.
Yeah. They like psych themselves
Yeah.
out, like because they'd get asked a question that wasn't on there, and they'd be like, "I wasn't prepared for that."
Right.
we did kind of set them up for
And
failure
yeah,
with
And
that.
a lot of times now, I feel like, you know, there may be a direction like how we start it, but it never goes, you know, maybe the way you expect. It's you just never know.
And that's,
what happens.
I think that's experience of as we do it more, that I never really understood navigation of a podcast. I didn't know navigation was such a crucial part of how it worked, that there's certain things that people kind of veer off on, that it's, we have to try to bring them back to like,
Right.
hey, okay, maybe that's not what we're talking about. Or it's maybe like, hey, this is a great story that's really going to actually be enticing to the people that are listening. Let's hone in on this a little bit more and try to dig in a little bit more and get that story that it is hard for people to open up sometimes.
Yeah.
You mean
Yeah.
Todd's tangent on llamas wasn't what we were looking for?
Yeah.
Well, it was good though.
Yeah.
funny.
But it's like kind of on those things that Todd and I have conversation all the time, and Todd was super comfortable on the podcast.
Oh.
So it would have went for hours, just like if he and I were sitting
He could
on
have
the
sat
couch.
there forever.
He could have sat there all night long, and
I
him
think
and
I
I
would have
had
fallen asleep there.
had a conversation
Yeah.
and never skipped a beat. Like
Yeah.
it was like the microphones and the headphones and everything weren't even there.
Yeah.
And the only problem we would have ran into that was dead camera batteries. That's it. But besides that, certain people, like when that happens, Todd and I may have conversations for 2 hours that have no relevance to them. That people will listen and be like,
Yeah.
the fuck? Like, so it's trying to make sure that you navigate something that if we are going to have an hour of someone's time, we give them something that they're like, hey, that was great to listen to. I want to come back again. Yeah. So
For sure. I'm gonna jump in again. It's your turn, Dane. This is a really good one for you. What's been your favorite part about the podcast, and then one specific moment from the podcast?
Favorite part. My favorite part is probably definitely getting to speak to so many different people.
Yeah.
I think most people that know me know that I'm very social and very outgoing. I enjoy talking to people. And I'm going to say my favorite part was probably definitely the podcast with my dad. Like, once I got done with that, it was something I knew I wanted like around a year, just because I wanted to make sure that like I knew what I was doing. But it's also something I look at years down the road, he's going to be gone, and it's going to be something really cool to have.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think that there was something that was really cool for me and my brother. And it's also something with the podcast that I look at 5 years down the road, we have documented everything we kind of do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We document the people we've worked with. We've documented all this. There's an hour of documentation of where we were at that time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be so cool down the road. And it's like, there's going to be days I'll have kids one day, and there'll be a day where I'm gone. And they're going to have all this footage to look back on.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome to think about.
Oh, yeah.
It is crazy to me just to think of, like, for instance, myself, like how often I don't take pictures, don't take videos, but then you'll watch I don't know if you guys do, but I'll watch like a historical documentary, and I'm like, damn, they actually like documented all that. They had the wherewithal to like actually document that stuff then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's just find it fascinating.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite things about the podcast has been obviously the people that we knew prior to getting them on as clients or having them on as guests. Like, you probably knew a lot of our guest stories beforehand, but one that has like really stuck out to me was Tony Cardello's. From the outside looking in, the first time you met him, you would never expect the shit that he went through. And like for him to like get on and tell his story, that's his story is going to resonate with someone. Like, someone who is in that same position could get a lot from what he has to say. So I think just learning everyone's story, because everyone is very quick to judge and just assume, like looking from the outside looking in, you meet someone and you're like, oh, I know what they've been through. Like, they're only successful because of this, or like that type of thing. But to be able to learn and understand where someone actually came from and what they did to get to where they are today is huge.
Yeah. I think that's just people in general love to judge.
Absolutely.
And I will say that is one of the biggest takeaways I learned in the automotive space. I will say that's a top 3 thing I learned in the auto space was never judge people. Mm-hmm. That you never knew what someone had when they came in, and you never know someone's story. And it's so funny since we have started this that the reels have been cut. And once again, the more success you find, the more people that are going to hate and be negative on stuff. And it's funny because it fires Madison up more than it does me. I literally just do not give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't care. Like, whatever anyone thinks about me, great. Good, bad, indifferent. Mm-hmm. I don't really care. I live my life the way I feel it should be lived every single day. And it makes it to where I sleep great at night. And if somebody most of the time when people are saying something, it's because they didn't listen to a full podcast. Mm-hmm. Same thing with all the people that talk shit on Corey's reel. The people that went and actually watched the full episode know the context of how it happened. Yeah. And then they see what he did afterwards. And then it's like, we're talking to Corey the next week, and he's like, you know, like, all of my people were watching that, and most of them didn't know my story. And he had people that work for him text me. He's like, man, thank you. Like, I didn't know what you went through to put us here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, like, when you start hearing those stories, like, it gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
That people do those things, and most of the time that leader is doing it, and it's not being, no one else knows that it's happening. Mm-hmm. No one knew when he had a skid loader on a truck and a trailer, or no one knew when Tony was going through all that stuff at that time. It wasn't like he was out broadcasting that to everyone.
Right.
But then to go back and tell people to change someone else's lives, like, I feel like that's pretty huge. And just not judging people and hearing them out and understand who they are. I don't think people take time in today's world to do that.
They'll never stop judging people.
Yeah.
I mean, the way the world's going now, it's probably not going to happen, but
Misery loves company. We just posted a reel on it. Misery loves company. People that are miserable will always hate on other people, and those are the people that love to take jabs the most.
Yeah.
and the best part about it for, people like us is it just feeds the algorithm. So
Yeah.
whenever they
True.
leave a hateful comment, it's just like, okay, well,
Thanks for the comment. I normally tell people, like, I say, like, jealousy at its finest. Keep watching. We'll see you
Right.
again.
keep watching. Yeah.
Kill them with kindness. Yeah,
Yeah.
just like someone who sits on their end of the phone and just like talks shit. Nothing is going to make their blood boil than just like giving a smart ass remark back. Just be like,
And YouTube is the worst.
oh yeah,
I noticed that recently.
YouTube people don't even have profile pictures.
Yeah.
Like on Facebook, if you see Tim Smith that lives in Liberty and you see his profile picture with his kids and he's talking shit, you're like, if I see you at a restaurant, I swear to God, like, but it's on YouTube, it's like somebody with the letter L as their name and it's like 24 numbers.
yeah,
And they're like, you're a clown or whatever, that some stupid ass shit they say. And it's like, this could be anyone in the world.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think people are less likely to do that too on Instagram and Facebook because one of your friends, family members sees your comment to someone on there and they're like, oh my God, like I didn't know you were like that. Like
Yeah.
that was pretty hateful of you. Like, why the hell would you say that? But I feel like people on YouTube, they're like, no one.
Yeah, no one
that's
sees
true
it.
though, because if you see a post that your friends commented on Instagram or Facebook,
Yeah.
it shows your friends' comments
Yeah.
first.
So I'm like, yeah.
I'm sitting there thinking about Dalton's grandma texting him, being like, "Hey, why the hell did you say this?" All right, let's move in. I don't even know what time we started.
We are at 28 minutes. 29
All right.
minutes.
Let's move over to the Moss Marketing Group side, and it's crazy because we have like a lot of questions on here, and I thought we had a lot. I thought the M3 was gonna be short, and that wasn't. But I'm gonna hit Dalton with this one because Dalton, when did you start?
April 1st of 21.
21.
So
Almost
coming
2
up on
years.
Almost
Oh,
2
yeah.
years.
That's awesome.
coming up.
What would you consider as being one of the largest turning points or even pivotal moments?
So I was looking at this question, and I don't think that there's like one specific one. I think it's been a progression of them, Ricky and Lauren coming on was huge, and especially the content that they brought. That was huge for us. I think that catapulted us up into a whole nother level that before, none of us here could really do that kind of.
So up until that point, funny fact about MMG was there was no audio. Audio had not been introduced yet.
And now we have a podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ricky.
So I think Ricky and Lauren joining was huge. I think
For sure was.
us moving into the office here, having our own space, was probably one of the bigger ones too. I mean, the next question's culture. I feel like the culture changed with that, a little bit.
Yeah.
And won't get into that. I'll let whoever's next do that. But I think it was Ricky bringing the content and then us moving here. Probably the two biggest. You could also throw us. Actually, no.
I'm gonna give you credit on another one, Dalton. I think when I think about one early on, when it was just the four of us, was you transitioning from photoing cars to the marketing side. I mean, whenever we started to get more organized in that aspect.
Yeah, and I think that just the progression of everything, we've moved people around.
Yeah.
We've figured out where, because at that point when Dalton was doing photos, that's financially the only way we were making it work. Like, so it was a completely different structure.
Yeah.
And now we don't do those photos at all. Like, we look back at it
I
now,
don't think
we're like,
anyone's mad about that.
no. And I sit there and look at the amount of time that we were putting into that, and it was crazy. But you're right. Ricky and Lauren coming on was a huge step in a different direction. And I think moving in here, that's probably a top 5 like moment in my life.
Yeah.
Like
it's huge for us.
When we came here, just like, I feel like that solidified us of what we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the basement was cool and all, like, but I could also tell like people are losing wind in their sail. Like I saw it from everyone that it's hard. Like it's hard when you're talking to people and they're like, yeah, I'm working for this dude in his basement. Like it's just weird. Like, and you're having to explain yourself to everyone.
I feel like not that many people knew that we were working in your basement, though.
We tried to play it off like
to
we
keep
weren't.
it on the deal.
Our office is in Liberty.
Yes.
Like we're at like over there.
Up in Shoal Creek.
Shoal Creek.
Yeah, Shoal Creek area.
Close to there.
Over by Target.
We actually have an office on the golf course.
That would be cool.
Yeah. So it was just one of those things I could see that it was like wearing on people. And I've been looking at space like for a while. Yeah. But once again, my vision for everyone was not taking a lateral move. Mm-hmm. I truly felt like the best for the company was to take a big step forward. And I feel like this office was the step forward that we needed. And it also positioned us a little further south, where the river market is something that people south of the river don't think it's that far north. You talk to people in Johnson County and you tell them that you're in Liberty, they think you're at the Iowa border.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it just kind of, I feel like it shifted a lot of things. And
definitely more centralized for sure.
Yeah.
And
it obviously, like, for sure was monumental for you. Like, obviously the business has your last name on it. But I feel like for me, like, I won't speak for everyone, but I think moving and transitioning to the office space really, like, put it in perspective, like, holy shit, like, this works. Like, this is going to work. This isn't just a bunch of people working in some dude's basement. Like, this is where, like, it kind of had, like, a little bit of an official feeling. Like, it just made us feel, like, official.
Yeah, and that was one of my... I felt like we had a company in the basement, and we were running a 7-figure company out of a basement.
Like, I mean,
the work was great. And I'm going to say that 100% of Moss Marketing Group has nothing to do with the space that we're at, anything like that. It's the people that are within these 4 walls, and that truly has been what has built us to where it's at. Why we're sitting here. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with every single person that's in here.
Yeah,
that. They bring the value to this, that the content that we're running now is higher level than ever before. Like, we are bringing a volume of content that people have never seen around here. And we just hired another editor yesterday that when this is dropping, he'll be starting. Mm-hmm. So it's like, and we're interviewing 2 more people to start. And it's what it is. I always knew, like, before I even started this, that there was a void for it. I didn't fully know how to go fix it. I didn't know how to fill that void. And with all of you guys here, you guys have been all the pieces to fill that void. And it was just leading us there.
I definitely don't think there's a shortage of pivotal moments. Like, we could literally have a podcast just on that.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't think there's a shortage of any pivotal moments. But next question. I almost got into this, but we'll give it to Logan. How would you describe the culture here at MMG?
This is a fun one. Whenever I'm talking to like someone new and trying to describe, what I do for work, I always describe it. I work with my best friends. Like, these are the people. Yes, we work together. We're obviously together 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. But these are also the people that we're together on Friday, Saturday nights. Whatever it is. Culture wise, I think Dane leads from the front in this one, with a culture of positivity, high energy, drive and ambition, and confidence that radiates throughout all of us, really. I mean, I know it does for me every single day, whether it's, I come in and I'm feeling, on the top of the world, or I'm not. When you come in, Dane's always in a positive,
steady
mindset.
Eddie.
Yeah. So, I mean... It's hard to sum it all up, briefly, but it's pretty awesome.
I've always felt that the culture is something that I feel people spend so much time working in their life, and so many people hate work. Mm-hmm. like, and exactly what I hated was exactly what I signed up for when I got out of college. And when I met Mass, I'm like, I'm never going to be that person that works at a job I hate and whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm just not going to be that person. And I signed up. I did exactly what I said I wasn't going to. And then I would talk to people on it, and I always felt like I was a hypocrite because I would tell people on, like, enjoy your life, like, do the things that you want to do. Like, every day is a gift that we're all given. But I wasn't taking my own words of advice. Mm-hmm. So when starting this, I was like, I want to build something that people don't have to worry about, like, oh, is my boss going to come and be on edge today, or is he going to come and be a dick and, like, freak out? And I'm intense in what I do, but it's also in the vision of where we're all going. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's never out of bad intention. And that's what I think I try to be very clear about that I want the best for every one of you guys. Like, and
I think it helps that at least I won't speak for everyone else, but at least for me, I know that that's where you're coming from. And I know that we share the same, vision and goals for what we're doing here. Now that would probably be a more difficult, struggle if someone didn't share those same views. But the fortunate thing about it is a lot of us, at least I believe, share the same views of where we're going.
Yeah.
And I think too, we all kind of knew, you and I knew Dane before this. Ricky and Lauren sort of did, but we all kind of knew, what we were signing on for. And not what we were signing on for, we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What we wanted to do. Like, we had already made the choice that we wanted to do it before. At least I did.
And I remember those, like, exact spots. I remember golfing when we were on, like, the 7th hole and Dalton gets a call that he has to go deliver an oxygen tank. And I have taken back to his car. I remember driving back onto the course to go meet back up with the people we were golfing with. And
I was probably pretty pissed.
Oh, he was real pissed because there was a girl that was supposed to be filling in for you, and she didn't. And I'm sitting on the golf course, and I was like, and I called Dre right afterwards, and I don't think Dre was golfing with me that day. And I told him, I was like, the next person we're hiring is Dalton. He goes, have you talked to him about starting? I go, no. He goes, how do you know that he'll come? I go, I know. And he's like, it was funny because he's just like, you haven't talked to him about it? I go, no, I'm telling you. I was like, I just had to take him to his car in the middle of, I go, no one should have to do that, period. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and anybody that ever works for us, that will never happen. No matter how big this gets, like, that will never be a thing. Mm-hmm. So it's just something like that. Like, I knew at that exact, like, point. And then also Logan was at my house, like, all the time. We had talked about it for like 6 months before he started. I'm like, bro, I'm broke. I'm like, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like, the second I'm hiring someone, I'm like, you're the next one. And he's like, but it was just like one of those things that it just all, like, kind of, it happens exactly the way it's supposed to.
I think culture in the workplace is one of my favorite things to talk about because I've been on the other end where I had a boss that was an asshole all the time. Like, my heart would start racing, my armpits would get sweaty, I'd clench my butt cheeks together anytime he'd come around because I was just so nervous that something that was going to come out of their mouth that was going to, like, destroy me because they're just negative all the time. And you hear all the time, like, surround yourself with like-minded people, which is kind of redundant. But if you think about it, if you're in a position where you don't like going to work every day, you feel like you're just clocking in, clocking out, you don't ever think about your future, you don't think about what your next 5 years are going to look like, take a step back and look at who you're surrounding yourself with. In your workspace especially, friends and family are one thing, but you're around your coworkers all day, every day. If they're constant negativity, not thinking for the future, not just kind of going through the motion, you're inevitably going to resemble that. So I think joining MMG and realizing that everyone around me has the same mindset to reach those quote unquote unrealistic goals. Like, we talk about, we're 20s, all of us are in our 20s. And so to be able to say in 10 years, we're not going to be sitting in an office working. Does that sound ridiculous to some people? Probably. But to know that every single person in this office is on that same page, I have no doubt in our mind that, like, the MMG will just take off and all of us will be kick back in Arizona next to a pool or something. But it's like, as cliche as it sounds, like surrounding yourself with the culture that you envision yourself is important.
Yeah, and sure. I think it's funny because I've talked to a lot of business owners that have scaled really large companies, and one of their, in today's world, the first question I get asked all the time, because I see this like fire ramp up of something that has once again taken off way faster. Like I feel like I'm trying to steer something that I have no earthly idea how to steer and figure out where we're going. And every single business person I talk to, they're like, when do you plan on selling? I go, I'm never selling this. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, that's like what you do in business. Like you get in to sell. And I'm like, no. I was like, this is like, you look at the VaynerMedias out there, like Gary Vee didn't build that to sell it, but he built a different culture around himself. Like, how do you build a culture around yourself when you're like, hey, I know you guys are putting everything into this, but I'm selling the bitch one day. And so many people have that, and they wonder why they can't find top tier talent. They can't find those like trustworthy people around them. Mm-hmm. It's because you're telling somebody you're going to steer a ship out to sea and you're going to jump off the side.
Well, that literally just builds the epitome of like the corporate culture.
Yeah.
Like
and
no one, someone could, get offered $5 more a day and they'll,
I'm out.
I'm out. Yep. I don't care.
And it's like,
you guys.
I never have that vision. I envision this being something so big that everyone has a part of, that is something so different. And it's hard to explain to people, but it's like, in my head, it's perfect. Mm-hmm. I can see exactly what it's supposed to look like. Mm-hmm. And but that culture builds with that when people truly want to be a part of something that they know, because I feel like if I jump ship today, I feel like everyone's jumping ship too. Mm-hmm. They're not going to follow me. I'm going to jump off the right side and everyone's going to say, fuck you, dude. And everyone's jumping off the left side. Like, and once again, we're friends. Like, I would never do that to the people that I'm around.
Yeah.
Things like that. But I think that's a big part of the culture. And I think it's something that I enjoy the culture. I enjoy coming to work.
Yeah.
And
it definitely has helped that you have handpicked everyone that works here. Like we by no means do all of us have a resume that is flooded with marketing and business experience. I'm like, you've kind of taken it, like just walked a plank with a few of us, and it's like, it works out because like you see something in people that others don't.
Yeah. I see people's work ethic.
Yeah.
I have trained salespeople, a lot of salespeople in the automotive space. Work ethic is not something you can teach.
Yeah.
You can't give someone drive.
No.
As much as you want to, I can't build someone else's vision for them. I can't steer, I can't write Dalton's book of life. That is up to Dalton. It's only up to Dalton. Mm-hmm. Wherever he wants to take it is how he's going to write it. But there's certain people that just have their head on straight, that have a work ethic, that have a drive to them, that I don't need to look at a resume to know if someone has that. If they have those things, we can teach the marketing side.
Yeah.
We can teach what we do here. But it's, once again, I've been in meetings with other marketing companies that have 2-3 times as many people as us. I was like, I will put my team up against you guys and we will blow you out of the water. And people like look at me and I'm like, I promise you I'm the most confident one that you guys walk out there. I'm like, I guarantee you, if you ran into a building on fire, none of your team is following you. I was like, I don't know if mine's smart enough or not to follow me. I was like, but it's like, I feel that like if I did that, you guys would look at it saying like, hey, he has the right vision in mind. We're going. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just think that's a big piece of it. And it makes it to where I run with a lot. I run with aggression. I run with confidence, but there's been so many times that I've agreed to things on accounts and they're like, you guys have done this? I'm like, yep, 100%. We like walk out and they're like, everyone's looking at me like, you guys got this? You're good at this shit. Like,
I do think that is one part to it though, is literally none of us that are here right now that I know of have any experience in marketing at all.
Maybe that should be our slogan.
But I some people may disagree with this, but I actually think that's kind of a good thing, especially since when we started, how much the market has shifted in every aspect. Like shit that we would have got taught in college probably wouldn't even apply today.
Yeah.
100%.
Literally, we all just had to step in,
yeah,
jump in, both feet down. Well, we're going to have to learn it.
Yeah.
So let's, study. I just think that, like you said, work ethic is one thing, but that work ethic allowed us to like study, learn the markets, learn what we need to be doing, shift when we need to shift, because we've had to do that.
Yeah, we've had to
Quite a
shift
few
a lot.
times.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like when people get these marketing degrees, and I want this to come off in the nicest way possible,
Right.
they think that what they say is gold in the market. And I remember sitting in the basement in the dark with all of us down there, sitting in our chairs with our notebooks, with
Learning.
with LinkedIn Learning up there, trying to figure out how to do all these things. And I'm like, what? And at one point, we're sitting there learning, and I'm like looking around the room. I'm like, what the fuck did I get myself into?
Yeah, I think when you hired me, I think I told you 3 times in like the same setting. I was like, I don't know the first thing about marketing.
I think when she kept telling me, she's like, I don't think you heard me.
No, I literally was like, do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? I'm like, I don't know.
You were
Rush
thinking you
hour.
were about to knock it.
That was off rush hour.
Yeah.
No, but I have a nursing degree. I never took a single business marketing class. Like, it was all just science and math. That was it. And so when I was telling Dane, I was like, I don't think you understand.
And I was talking to Ricky. He's like, what does our first day look like? I'm like, that's a good question. I'm like, I don't know, bro. I'm getting you guys a desk.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Lauren, we're like, all right, Lauren's here. She's like, I have no idea what to do. You guys just
Yeah.
Dalton and I did a very bad job of giving Lauren direction in the beginning.
And Lauren like looks at me. She's like, what am I doing? I'm like, I don't know. Talk to Logan and Dahl. They know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. Literally, I think I just sat over Logan's shoulder for like 2 weeks and just like watched everything he did. And then Logan's like, all right, you got it? And I'm like, yep.
In our defense, like,
That's
I think
about
we
how
would
it
do a
started
lot
with him.
better now because we had like a whole nother like kind of environment that we were in with just like 4 dudes, like 4 friends.
Yeah.
So it was like, we had to like tone it down. Like we had conversations on like, how is this going to work?
Yeah.
How are we going to act? So I think we were trying to learn in the same way you were. Like we were trying to learn how we should be acting.
Yeah. Because when it was, the whole time in the basement, there was no like,
Filter.
but there was also like no time frame of work.
Yeah.
Like if we wanted to go work out at like 10 o'clock, we go work out at 10 o'clock in the morning. We work till midnight. Yeah. And then there'd be nights everyone's working. I'm like, I got extra bedrooms. You guys can stay here. And everyone had their own shower in the house. I'm like, hey, you know what? Now the 4 full bathrooms in my house are coming to use. So everyone had their spot, and it was just like Madison cooked us dinner every night. We'd all go out for lunch every day. It was just like, I'm like, I don't think this is real life.
Yeah. No, when Ricky and I were at the gym, we were like, what do these guys do? Like, it's like 10 to noon. They're still at the gym, and I'm like,
You guys ready to go get lunch?
yeah, they're talking about going to get lunch after, and I'm like, what the hell?
But to be fair, we were working until like 8 or 9 p.m.
Right.
Yeah.
So we would come back and get started, and then
Which it was like the first time ever that in the automotive space you have to work based on like banks. Mm-hmm. So it's like you were working and then you're like getting deals structured, and like it was just a way different structure that I'm like, if we're doing marketing at midnight or if we're doing it at like 8 a.m. or if we're doing it at noon, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So it was just like the first time that we just had like kind of a free for all, and I felt like we were running kind of like a fraternity house out of the basement, and just kind of like, hey, we're getting paid, like we're eating, and we have money to buy booze.
Oh my gosh.
It was quite the deal down there. Let's see here, where are we at?
I think we've hit on some of them, like how to find the employees when you're ready to expand the team. You've hit on that.
Oh, here's a good one, Dane. I'll ask you this one. What do you think your company is doing well in terms of innovation and staying ahead of the curve?
I think that just goes into being an adaptive person. And so many, I will say, I feel like the marketing space is a broken space. And that was one of the key reasons why I got into it and why I felt that we needed what we're doing. Mm-hmm. Just the simplest thing right now is, I'm going to go from simple and then kind of scale it up. But from the simplest aspect, marketing companies right now have content creators. Mm-hmm. Or most of them don't have content creators, but they're subbing it out to freelancers. And they are a creative side, which you need those people, but they're not even progressing into portrait style video yet. If I get on Instagram and I see a video that says turn your phone sideways, I'm like, up next.
Yeah.
Turn your phone sideways next. And it's like, if your videos aren't formatted correctly, things like that, it's the market is going to tell us what we need to do. And everyone wants to think that they're smarter than Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or Google. Guess what? Sorry to inform you, but you're not smarter than them. Mm-hmm. They create their algorithms, not you. What we have to do to be experts in our space is do what those algorithms are deeming is working. Mm-hmm. So it's fueling the beast, which quite frankly, I hate social media, but it's still a beast that has to be fed. And social media and everything digital is such a crucial business tool that I feel like what we're doing that is also way more innovative and kind of further stepping than most marketing agencies is bridging the gap of media and marketing together. And then also, how does that help a business return revenue? Mm-hmm. Marketing companies are so bad about going in and they just want to check, they want to contract, and they don't really give a rat's ass about your business. No. And I dealt with it for years. And I know I do, and I think everyone in here does also. We truly care about the clients that we work with. And I think that is a huge, huge factor, that we have accounts that we have built relationships with, that other marketing companies reach out to them. They're like, yep, not talking to you. Nope, not talking to you. And I've had conversations with certain owners that they're like, well, so-and-so reached out. Yeah, you should set up an appointment next week at this time, and I'll be there. I'll hear them out. I would love to see what they have to offer. If they have a better product to offer you at the same price, you should go with them. I love competition. I want competition, but it's like that this space doesn't have it. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's just very much like keeping our eyes open to what we're doing, formatting stuff correctly, really leaning into volume of media and bringing stuff to businesses that actually return revenue. Mm-hmm. And when you return revenue that's why a business spends money on marketing, is to make money. They don't want to drop $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 a year just for shits and gigs. Mm-hmm. I promise you, I know most marketing companies think that they do, but the way that they are thinking about it is, how does this increase our revenue into our building or into our business? Mm-hmm. So that's how I view it. So I think because I've sat on the other side for so long, I think I have a different idea of how it's sold, how it's relayed to business owners. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. It feels relationship based, not necessarily. We don't chase like a revenue number, or money, or whatever. We have those goals, but each of us that works or speaks with our clients, we truly, like Dane said, want the best for them, mm-hmm. and we build a relationship with them. I mean, we're in partnership in business, and it's supposed to be mutually beneficial. Mm-hmm. So we're supposed to benefit from it. Obviously, they are as well. Mm-hmm. And whenever you go at it with that mindset and you want to, do whatever it takes to make both parties successful, then you get the result that we've gotten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so cool from our end, like the accounts that we're managing. Like for Italian Delight, for instance, I had mentioned the idea of doing the heart-shaped pizzas for Valentine's Day to Tyler. And I knew he was annoyed because it's just a lot of work to make this crust look like a heart. I get it. And I wanted to know how that went. So he texted me and he's like, yeah, we had over 50 heart-shaped pizza orders. And I was like, I enjoyed hearing that, to know that, yeah, it was my crazy idea, but it actually it benefited the business. So it's really cool to just know how our businesses are doing. If one of our accounts is having a bad month, why? Let's figure out why. Let's look at the numbers. Let's see what's working, what didn't work. Maybe something worked this month, but it didn't work the next month. Try something new. I feel like that is a benefit that we have, is we're not just posting on our accounts and then not caring about it. We go back and we look at the views, and if a video or a reel has lower views than the normal video on that account, why? Like, was it a hashtag that we used? Was it a time of day that you posted? Was it, like, there's so many elements that go into things performing well and businesses being successful that, like, as a local marketing company, like, we enjoy doing that. We enjoy seeing that and wanting our accounts and business owners to succeed is something that we kind of take pride in. Like you said, like Logan said, like, we're not chasing the dollars. Like, if an account needs another content day, like, we would be like, absolutely.
And that's, I think so many people are accustomed to being nickel and dimed in this space.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things I've held true to since we've started is we don't nickel and dime people for stuff. If they work with us, I look as a partnership that we become a third element of that company. Like, we are a vital tool for them to always use. And that's the way that's the way I've always wanted it. That's the way I feel that the culture is built, that if somebody hits up Dalton and says, hey, we need a graphic for this, it's not like, let me go check and see what that's going to cost you.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like,
yeah.
And it was that way all the time. I remember so V Auto's a system that runs dealerships. There's a little banner. So if you're ever looking at cars online, there's a banner that runs the bottom of a car. And V Auto, I called them. I was like, hey, I want a different banner. Our logo's off. And they're like, all right, you're going to get a $1,200 bill for us to fix that.
I can't tell you how many of those I've done for dealers for us.
I know.
Like,
and I'm like, come again? And they're like, yeah. So that was actually probably 2 years before I left the dealership when I started changing all of our stuff, because I paid for Adobe that day. I got into Photoshop. I thought it was written in Chinese. And I was watching YouTube videos all night trying to figure out how to build these. And the hardest part was I couldn't figure out how to export. I kept exporting as a JPEG, and I didn't know why I was like not transparent on my photos. They need to be at PNG. So that was a whole learning curve there. But I finally figured it out and got it sized right and everything. But dealers pay that all over the country all the time. And we've had how many dealerships that they're like, can you send us, do we get the file after you make that? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. It takes us like 10 minutes to make. But it's just stupid shit like that people are nickel and dime for all the time. And I feel like that's what happens in the SEO space. The SEO space, I feel, is criminal. Shit is criminal that marketing companies get paid when they get paid to do that. Like, it's like not even right, because people don't understand it and people pay it, and it's just like, once again, I was somebody that paid for it. And then after now understanding how it all works, and I'm like, come again? Like, very lucrative.
Yeah.
There's a reason that there's marketing guys that live in Florida that roll around in like in new Lambos all the time that have no employees, and they're just subbing shit out to the Philippines and fucking Pakistan and shit. Like, but that shit happens all day. I've called so many people that like they built their whole company on American made, blah blah blah, and they do all this shit, which like 100%. That's the way 100% of our shit comes out of this office. And I've called people, and I'm like, you guys are all about American made and all that, but why is your Facebook managed out of Pakistan? And they're like, it is not. I go, yeah, it is.
Like, look at it.
And I'm like, I can pull it up right here and I'll show you. And then I'm like, call your marketing person and ask who's doing the shit.
Yeah.
And then the marketing people will flat out lie to them. And I'm like, how about you try to get someone on the phone? Oh, I can get you on the calendar here in 2.5 weeks. I'm like, you can see the people that manage a Facebook page. Go to a page, go to page transparency. If you want to write this down, go into there. You will see pages that are managed from the Philippines all over the place. And if you want the cheapest option and you want to sub shit out, go for it. That's not somebody we want to work with. And I just feel that is something that irritates me, and it takes advantage of people. And yeah, I get fired up on that. That could be a whole podcast on. Yeah. I'm going off on a tangent. We already talked about that. What are we on next?
Did we talk about everyone's favorite moment in MMG history thus far?
No, I don't think everyone. No, we'll round table that one.
Go for it, Lauren.
Lauren, you start.
Okay. I think just thinking about like everything that has happened in a little over a year since Ricky and I have joined, I think one of my favorite moments was probably our client Christmas party that we had. That we had our first annual one last year, and that's gonna be something that we do from now on. Like every single year before the holidays, we're gonna have a Christmas party where we invite all of our business owners that we work with to come to our office. And just so this past one that we just had, being in a room with everyone that we work with and talking to them face to face, and just like all of us being together was something that was really freaking cool to see. Just seeing like how everyone interacted with everyone and being able to talk face to face with the person who owns the business of the account that you're running and having a personal relationship with them is like, that doesn't happen with marketing companies. Like they're not having Christmas parties with the business owners that they're running pages for. So I think that's definitely something that sets us aside, is that personable aspect and like building the rapport with our clients. So seeing everyone in one room at one time was really freaking cool.
I don't think the future, even maybe by this next Christmas, our office will be big enough to hold it.
Yeah.
So we might be doing it at a
golf course.
Golf course.
Oh, there we go. Down for that.
Yeah. Somewhere a lot larger. But all right, Dalton, what's yours?
I feel like I have a couple.
All right.
Lauren, that was a good one. My reason behind that is I just felt like it was a step for us to like, after moving in the office now, like we're hosting stuff for clients. It just seems like, I don't know if you want to call it official, but it's like we're hosting events for our clients, you know, coming in, entertaining them. Then we went to eat after. It just seemed like official, you know, like it was official. Mm-hmm. A second one would be moving into the office, because that was huge, especially, you know, starting in the bedroom, the very top bedroom.
Yeah.
You
Dalton was in the OG bedroom with Dre and I.
So that was huge, but also I mean I feel like I can't leave this one out. It was South Dakota.
That was going to be one of mine.
Yeah, that I figured it probably was. It probably is all of ours, but that was a blast. So
yeah, it was.
Yeah, there's a lot of those things that are going to be coming in the future and at a much larger scale. But I mean, Logan.
I agree with those three as well. Definitely highlights for me. I think like watching the growth of everyone for me, like another question, what's your favorite part about working in this company? It's you guys for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, and watching everyone grow, watching myself grow now, you know, all of the progression that we've made, whether it be on camera, you know, in our relationships at work, whatever. It's pretty freaking cool. Yeah.
I had one that I wanted to add. So at the time I wasn't like super stoked about it, but when I think we took on like 350 per car marketing.
Oh yeah.
in 1 month.
Yeah.
I believe. And
just a few.
That was when we were working till late or 9.
That was when it was just Logan and I, and you were like, you think you guys can do it? I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
It's gonna suck, but we can.
We looked at each other. We're like, "Yo, we got it."
Holy shit, dude, that's a lot.
I came to them like, "How many of these do you think you guys are doing?" They're like, "A lot." I was like, "All right, let's roll." And then I'm like, I head out that week. I'm like, "I got you a fucking lot."
Dane says that, and then he leaves, and I'm like, "Dalton, time me. I see how fast I could do a car."
I think we were down to like less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think the quickest we were ever doing them was 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun.
I just looking back on it now is just like one of those things that like you say, like we're just gonna do it. Mm-hmm. We're just gonna jump in. Like we're gonna have to fucking make it work. It doesn't. Yeah. There's no option. So just, you know, of course, at the time it was like a little stressful and kind of sucked. But looking back on it, it's another block. And like, yeah, we can do whatever we really want to do at any given time. So
for sure.
You're up, buddy.
I would say mine was South Dakota was fun. Like I've enjoyed all those as a business. When we moved in here and I sat up there And it wasn't even like the whole time was cool, but I remember sitting up there by myself. Everyone was down here, and everyone's like looking at the office, and everyone's doing stuff. I'm sitting on the ground right there, and Dre's like walking around with Samantha. I was like, how cool is it that like I get work with my brother every single day? Like that there's a lot of people that fight with their siblings, things like that, and I have the luxury of getting to work with my brother every single day. I've got to watch him grow into someone so much larger and really take on a ton of roles to grow and the growth of everyone here. But it's like I really sat there and I was like, I feel that this is truly making a difference. It was everyone's laughing and talking and like going around having drinks, and I'm just like sitting up there by myself like watching it, and I'm like, this is 200% the exact reason why I signed up to do what this is. So that was a pivotal moment in, I'd say, my life as a whole, was that evening. Mm-hmm. But it's also, that was a short, in the grand scheme of things, 24 months seemed so fast. And even, I mean, we haven't been here for a year yet, and we talk about that like that was so long ago.
Yeah, no.
And then now we're already talking about like, how are we going to fit that many more people in here? And I truly believe that there is going to be a footprint put in Kansas City that's going to be way larger than any of us. And it's going to be something that when it is built, it is going to be very, very large, and it's going to be something that this is a stepping stone that we have to what is in our futures for this. And it's just, I don't know, I think that the right people keep coming along, everything keeps going the way it's supposed to, and I think that there is a grander plan for all of us, and it is being put right in front of us, and everyone here is great at seizing the opportunities in front of them. And like you said, we can do anything that we want to, and we can have as much work as we want to, and that's another luxury that we've had. Is up until January of this year, we've never done any sales. Like, that's the first time we've ever implemented actually actively selling.
Yeah.
Everything else before that was like referral based, and just people that I kind of knew. I was like, hey, would you be interested in marketing? They're like, yeah. It was like, and it was crazy how busy we were on just a small, like a network that I had. That then it leveraged into something. Now we're onboarding accounts of people I have no idea who they are. Yeah. And we go meet them and become like great friends with them. Yeah. And then they're like,
so
hey.
We've met a lot of friends through this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since end of February. So
less
than
2 months. Cool months.
And it's cool too on all the people that we're getting into those networks. I feel like we're on hyperdrive of everything that we get to view all the time from all these different businesses. And I feel like it's educating you guys even more. And it's, I feel like I'm having to grow as a business owner to actually try to run this as a business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because
I will say, I think in the last couple months, ever since we kind of switched the way we were doing things, like that's been the biggest like injection of like knowledge and learning that I've ever done.
Yeah.
So far with MMG. And so I think the last couple of months has been a good ride.
And I think before we ignored market, but I'm not going to say we ignored market. We didn't have the means to produce what I truly saw was working.
Yeah, and I think it was a bit of unorganization.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I was very unorganized as a business owner. Like, I was somebody that up until recently, I ran it as, hey, account always goes positive every month. Never really checked where checks were, never really checked on money out. But it's just like, hey, everything's going northbound. We're good to roll. And now I've really started like breaking it down. Like, hey, we need to know where every single dollar goes out, where every single dollar comes in, like who's paid, who hasn't paid. And it just, a lot of those pieces that I haven't been taught that.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm learning, I'm adapting. Those are things I'm learning on. Is the accounting side. I'm learning on scale, like what every individual here is best suited at, making sure that the right people are in place when we're hiring other individuals. Like, I'm not going to have the time to say, hey, okay, I'm training this person when they start. It's everyone's in place now that it's like, hey, these people, like, you answer to them, you work under them, they're training you. It would be a waste of my time to try to train someone now in what you guys do when you guys are 1,000 times more efficient at it than I am. Mm-hmm. If I tried to train a content person that came in, first off, the quality of content person we're going to hire here is going to be way better than me. Mm-hmm. So there wouldn't be shit for me to teach them. What they're being taught is the processes of what we do, which Ricky handles that side of it now. And it's just getting all these different, keys put in place and the correct keys that it makes it to where it all works out and it works smoothly, that it makes it the most efficient onboarding process for accounts. Like, I think that I get that all the time when we onboard accounts. Like, that just seems so easy. Mm-hmm. Like, is there sure there's not anything else I need to do? Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, that's how it's supposed to be. Yeah. So I think just a lot of that.
What else we got?
Want to wrap up with Square One coaching?
Yeah. We can hit on that shortly.
All right. Dane, who should be in Square One coaching?
Everyone.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Like, and this is something that I feel like is crazy for me to wrap my head around, is I've always, when I was at the dealership, I had like a mentor life coach type deal that was crazy expensive, and fully to help me manage time. That was like 90% of what we did, was what I was doing with my time week over week, how I was being most efficient, how processes I had that were broken, how I took control of my time, which I look back at it, and at that time I hated doing it, but it was like part of what we had to do. But now I look at it as like that was very beneficial for what we did. And I am still in a coaching group now. I feel like people need to have a lot of things that we think are, like, we talk about discipline, we talk about organization, we talk about all these things that are such huge factors in your life, but people don't take seriously. They don't think about them every week. They don't go over those different. I will tell you, becoming more organized will change your life in every aspect possible. Yeah. My biggest fucking pet peeve is when I talk to people and they're like, I have no time, man. I was like, no, you just don't know how to fucking manage it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what is your, I can sit with someone, and now granted, there are some people that are crazy swamped with their time, that we have business owners that I really don't know how to do it, some of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have other people that, are running very small companies without a lot of stuff, but they're just so inefficient with what they do, and they don't want to listen to anybody. They're know-it-all, and you always have progression for growth. And our call that we had this week was over discipline. That is something I'm working on right now to become better at. So it's not like when when we have these Square One calls that it's like, oh, I know all, like this is, but it's a way to bring that to light. Mm-hmm. And say, hey, here's some things that you can implement in your life to become more disciplined or to become more organized. Here, it's broken down. And sometimes when you break those things down, we went over goals like when 2023 started, that so many people come to the table with the most vague goals. I'm going to lose weight in 2023. All right, great. Like, how many people make that same fucking goal, start off in January, and then they're not going to the gym by February? Mm-hmm. Like, it'd probably be millions of people. Oh, yeah. So then it's like, I want to set number on what everyone's trying to do financially, what they're trying to do physically, what they're trying to do personally, figure out a tangible win, and then break it down to what has to be done every month. Like, so then it's like we go over all these different pieces, and I truly think everything that we go over on Square One, everyone could utilize. Mm-hmm. We have people from people that are just starting off in business that work somewhere to people that run and operate very high level companies, to where it helps everyone. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I think it's something that everyone can use, but there's most people that aren't willing to invest in themselves.
I feel like if you have any interest in bettering yourself at all in any aspect of life, being in a coaching group would help tremendously. You may not realize that something that you've done every single day for your whole entire life could be one problem away from making you successful. Whether it could be something stupid like you don't hang your clothes up after doing laundry. Like, maybe coming home every day to a clean room will help you in any way. Just stupid stuff like that. So I think there's a few people I know personally that I know would excel so much by listening to everyone's conversation on the Square One call every week. And I wish I could just just grab them by the shoulders and be like, you need to be in this fucking group because it's going to help you in a million ways. But if people just still have the mindset of whatever the monthly payment is, I don't even know what it is.
$197.
Yeah. If that is not worth it to you, then you got bigger problems.
And the crazy thing is, I'm not even saying Square One. Do something.
Yes.
Find someone out there.
It doesn't have to be.
It can be anyone. Find someone that is going to help you level up your life. Mm-hmm. Everyone has 1 hour a week to take to do this. Yeah. People watch it's funny how you talk to those people that have no time, but then they're telling you about like every new show on Netflix that they've watched all of that just came out last week, but they have no time.
Yeah.
And everyone has that time, but they just don't want to take that time to better themselves. They're in denial. And it's funny, I've had a conversation with someone where they're like, yeah, 197 is a little like, I just don't think I can swing that right now. And then like 3 days later, they had all these videos of them at P&L buying shots for all these people and everything else. Like, oh, they haven't made it a priority in their life. And once again, that's not a priority I can set for someone. We have the same thing with business owners that they come in and they're like, hey, yeah, that's a little bit too much. I don't want to spend on my business right now. But they're driving a brand new car sitting out front. Where do your priorities lie? Mm-hmm. When I started Moss Marketing Group, I didn't have a nice ride. I had a fucking Ford Fusion. I had wheels. But it was something that got me to A to B at that point until I made money. Then I bought something nice. Yeah. But it's, where do your priorities lie? And at that point, I was spending, I don't know, probably more than that. Probably 10 times my car payment on ads. Yeah. When I could have been driving a nicer car at that point, but ads to grow Moss Marketing Group were much more important to me. Mm-hmm. And it's just like when you look at those things and you look at how people prioritize things, personal growth, people put it at the very bottom. They'll go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on college, but $197 a month, whoa, man, I can't do that.
My take on it is, no matter how experienced you are, how old you are, how young you are, what your ACT score was, if you're a 4.0 student in college, no one's perfect, and no one should ever stop learning. Like, if you stop learning, you might as well just fucking keel over because you're fucked, really, or you're just done. Yeah. But
that's Dalton's reel. It's going up.
No, but what I'm saying is, there are things like that we've talked about that, like, I like to talk about, like, self-awareness. Like, I think sometimes, maybe I'm not, but I like to think I'm fairly self-aware, but there's been things that's not, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, you think I'm super smart, but, like, you should have been doing that, or that's something that you didn't even think about. So I just think that there's never any time, and like you said, and like I said, it doesn't have to be Square One coaching. It can be fucking YouTube videos on shit or another coaching group, but just something, proactive and productive in your personal life to try to, and that works for business too, but just something to grow yourself or remind you of those things that maybe you once were doing that you're not doing anymore. Mm-hmm. I think just having that constant reminder, constant learning, and the community is good too.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I think we talk very much on a personal level and like a professional level, but on that personal side, we talk a lot too about like relationships, and there's a lot of those factors that play into a relationship that I think a lot of people discount, and people go to one extreme of work is the most important thing in the world, and then they start taking away from the relationship side, or it's fitness becomes the most important thing in the world, and then they take away from the work side and the relationship side. Like, you have to figure out how to balance all those things together. And we're not even in a position yet that we have kids. So then that's going to be even another factor that's thrown into it, to where you have to figure out how to balance these things, where that, if you're having a relationship issue, like what is the root of that? And a lot of people don't want to talk about those things. and they just let them stew, and they let them stew for a long time. And I've always been a person that I don't like things stewing. Like if we have problems or whatever it is, that's just going to be handled like today.
Yeah.
It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be like, hey, let's talk about it next week. I want this shit handled today. I want it solved. I want to move forward. But it's, I think when things stew, they end up becoming larger problems than they need to be. Yeah. And it happens in business. It happens in personal. It happens in relationships. It happens all over the place. So I think there's just so many of those things that are brought up in Square One that sometimes people just need their eyes open to it a little bit.
I like to call it mountaineering mind. That's what I do. I like be on the up, focus on one thing, and then something happens, and I'm like going back down the other side, focus on something, and then back up.
Yeah.
I feel like Square One has helped me with that. Like just stay focused on one thing. I don't know, because I wasn't unaware of this before, but I just didn't really feel like I took any steps to like maybe change that. But I don't know. I just feel like I know that then this happened to me since I've been back from Mexico. Like I've been off the fucking wagon.
Yeah.
Like I was doing really good, reading a lot, eating good, going to the gym a lot. And since I've got back from Mexico, that everything has been less. So,
and
I think just that constant reminder of like, hey.
It's funny too how I've watched I watch Moss Marketing Group from an outside view all the time, and just because I see that perception is key in everything, and perception of what Moss Marketing Group looks like to everyone that isn't part of it, and I'm very aware of what we're doing here. I'm very aware of that. And I've seen that there's been a shift in the whole entire culture, the whole entire company since Square One. That is something that it has brought all these different value pieces that if no one ever joined, and it was like I started day one and I saw the change in Moss Marketing Group, it was been still, if the value is brought to one person, then it is worth everything, every single part of it. And I just think that it's really cool seeing what people here have taken from it. It's made me better because I have to come up with these calls, and then I'm like putting together these calls every Tuesday, and I'm like writing shit down. I'm like sitting there, and like Madison knows my I move around the house as I'm like working on it, and she's like,
you're pacing.
Yeah, kind of. And it's like my head like starts rolling, and then like as I'm coming up with stuff, then I start looking up quotes, and I'm like putting it all together. And I'm like, wow. I feel like that's pretty hypocritical if I'm writing this down right now. I'm like, same thing with like people that are telling other people how to golf. And you're like, hey, you need to do this, this, and this, and then they hit in the fucking trees. I'm like, yeah, nice. Like same kind of deal that I'm like writing that down. I'm like, okay, I got to get a lot better at this if I'm going to tell people to do this. So it's like the organization call was like the first one that like it was December time when we were going over that call, and I was like writing all that stuff down. I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this. I'm not. And it was almost like a checklist of shit I wasn't doing. I'm like putting it all together. I'm like, okay, this is my call. I'm like, okay, I'm not doing shit on here. I'm like, this is going to be, everyone's going to work on this plus me. But I don't know. I feel like it's turned out pretty cool.
Yeah. I think one thing that makes Square One stand out from other coaching group is right now we're at the point where the average like people on screen when we're actually filming at 10 o'clock on Wednesday mornings is like 12 to 15 people, which we're still at that. We're still able to get, people can talk on the video call. So now's the time, because then you can get your own story in. Whereas like when it gets to the point where we have 100 plus people, it's not going to work to have every single person talk and tell their story or whatever on the pod or on the call. So right now it's like, if you're thinking about it all, now is the time to do it, because you have that voice and you have that platform to be able to tell your story. Yeah. Like I think right now we're getting through almost every single person that's in there listening on whatever the topic of the call is. Everyone gets to talk on their point and to hear everyone else, because no one's the same. Like I know I'm hearing stuff from Kayla and Dirk and Dylan, like everything that they have to say. Even if you take like one little thing from what they have to say, then that's huge.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think, I don't even know what time we're at. I think Ricky really botched on the timing.
We're at an hour and a half.
Hour and a half?
All right.
Think somewhere roughly around there.
I think we should play the first intro as the outro.
I definitely don't think we should do that.
They got to go back and watch the first episode for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a pretty highly viewed episode. I feel like it.
I never watched it.
I feel like
I know I fucking.
I watched
suck
like
at it.
5 minutes of it, and I'm like, oh my God, I suck.
It has like 500 views, I think, on Facebook or on YouTube. It has a lot of downloads. So I think that might have deterred people away from the M3 podcast. So if you're joining now, maybe don't go listen to the first one. Listen to the more recent ones.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for all being on.
Thank you.
This is to a year of us podcasting and a lot more to come.
Hell yeah.
Let's get it.
Let's make it happen.
Thanks for listening to the M3 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Want to learn more? Check us out on Instagram at Moss Marketing Group, on Facebook at Moss Marketing 58, or on our website at mossmarketinggroup.com.